We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Past. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Past, and I hope you all enjoy. What is up? What is good? How are you feeling? Happy 2024. Episode 395 of The Past is here. It's been close to, if not a month, since I've last recorded an actual episode. I will forewarn you, I might be a little rusty, so just be patient and bear with me through this process. Again, I want to just say, if you have the opportunity or are able to listen to this show, you have reached another year. Now, yes, we can go into the different types of calendars. We're not going to get into that today. That is not this type of podcast. But I do want to let folks know, for anyone that is looking at this numerical year of 2024 is starting today or starting 6 days ago. Welcome. We are here. We have our purpose, we have our plans, we have our tasks. Now comes the fun part of figuring it all out. And the hardest part of the biggest challenge of doing that is to really come in and really be explicit, really be intentional, really be true to who you are and what you intend to do or how you intend to move in getting what you need to get accomplished. This episode is going to be, as many of them are known to be, very impromptu, but very preparatory in kind of knowing where you are and what you're looking to get knocked out for the year. I am not going to sit here and record this as a planning professional, because that is not my task nor my duty. But I will talk to you about some planning tips and some ideas and thoughts on working through the year. If you have not had an opportunity to do so, please go back and listen to episode 394, where we do the year in review. I gave the theme for last year or this year on that podcast, but I will share it again. It is the year of receiving grace. I did not have a sub-theme per se, but my sub-theme for this year is discipline, or the word of the year. I also would say the sub theme would be just learning how to love on yourself more, which ties into receiving grace. And I've had two of my friends who talked to me early on this morning and just reminding me to not be so hard on myself. A lot of people, and I've said this numerous times when doing the podcast, a lot of people don't even get close to 100 episodes on their podcast. And here I am, 5 episodes away that are counted for from reaching the 400 milestone. And I think that's been one of my consistent themes that I've shared with others, is to really take that time and take that opportunity to celebrate those victories. The 400th episode, hopefully, I will have a guest on. I don't want to make that promise and then have no one be on the show. But I will say that it will be good to do if we get that opportunity. So before we go any further into the show, I want to give some transparency for a moment on a accessory that has taken my productivity to another level. And no, this company is not sponsoring the podcast. No, I am not going to make any commission from sharing their resource. But I will say that I am officially attached and attracted to this business for what they're doing. And the name of the company is called Brick. It is, if you look it up, I think it's getbrick.app. I will place that link in the show notes for you all to check them out. Long story short, the accessory is intended to increase your level of being present to another level. So many of us and now I will go ahead and be clear, currently the device is only for iOS, for Apple. It will be soon implemented as a option for Android. You got to give developers and you have to give platforms time just to see if making this product will be beneficial or sufficient to their platform. But what it does, anyone who has an iPhone knows about the infamous screen time and how you can manage what apps you do or don't load. Without this device, let's say you set a timer. Let's say I'm going to set different apps to not be used for like 2 hours. When that 2 hour window is met or is reached, what'll happen is you'll get a notice that says your time limit has been reached, and you can go in, press the button and say, hey, add another 5 minutes or turn it off until tomorrow or whatever. With this Brick accessory, it's a much different ball game, because now what you're doing is, okay, I have these programs turned off and I'm not going to use them until I unbrick the phone. The term brick, and I'm freestyling this. This is not them telling me to say this. This is me saying it. It's kind of almost a way of you returning your phone just to the minimalist or the main things that you need to use to work your phone. Now, if you really look at it, when you receive a phone, and this is with Android or iPhone, you're only going to have what's known as your stock applications. As you utilize the phone and as you are checking the app store, you're then adding applications in based on what you use. So like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, bank information, browsers, etc., etc. When you brick the phone, it's going to brick it by default, if you set it up this way, to only give you the main apps that you would primarily need to use. But your difference is going to be from there to just utilize according to the other applications that you may need. So for instance, I have a profile, and I need to rename my profiles, because I have one right now that's default, and my default is set where if I'm needing to use it for work, then I'm going to only use what I would need it for work for. So such as Microsoft Authenticator, Spotify, if I'm doing workouts, things of that nature, I want to be able to access those applications right away. And the other theme I have is called work, which work is pretty much like full-blown shutdown. So what I may do is rename them, and because you can set up different profiles for different purposes. You may want to set up one that says, call it Deep Focus, which I think the second one that I have named work, I'm going to call Deep Focus, because Deep Focus pretty much shuts every application out. The only applications you can use are messaging, FaceTime, phone, calendar, watch, settings, Opal. Opal has an interesting connection with Brick, which I understand why, because Opal kind of does similar features to what Brick does, just on a different level. I've talked about a lot of the details and the specifics, but what I haven't talked about is the price. So I'll go ahead and get that out the way now. It is a one-time fee or one-time purchase for $49. And for $49, you receive the accessory, which is a 3D printed version of the Brick tool. And that tool will have like a design on it so that you pretty much are doing like what we call tap to pay. But instead, the tap to option would be used for the actual brick itself. And it comes with a little card that explains how it works. There are videos online that shows you how it works. It's very simple and very useful. I will also answer this as well. It can be used if you have a phone case, like a pretty thick phone case, it will still work. Like you don't have to take the phone out of the case to set this up. I have found this to be probably one of the best tools in getting a more thorough routine or pattern in place, which I'm going to talk about that as well in a moment. If anything, more than my more consistent flow has been using it to prepare my morning. So if I'm getting up and I need to walk, I need to do different tasks or activities, I'll have it set where most of the apps that I know I will be on in the morning are unavailable. When using these different devices or accessories to not be as connected to your phone, when you give yourself the option to use these certain features, you're now making a clear intention as to what you're going to do if you go into said application. So for instance, if I'm giving myself permission to unbrick my phone to access everything, what am I going in to utilize? And am I going to solely do that and go, or am I going to use that and then go into other programs? Because what happens is our phones and technology will have you thinking on different ways of looking into what you're wanting to do, learn, utilize, the whole nine. And it can become very stressful. It can cause chronic, I think it's called like chronic social, it's a term that I looked up related to this, and I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing, but it literally can generate how crippled you become from consuming so much information via social media. And I've talked about this before with the recent news breaking with the Cat Williams interview, which is like an interesting dynamic. And I've thought about it after the fact of me saying what I said to someone who I know, in the sense that I listened to enough blurbs and snippets of it that I didn't want to listen to the actual podcast. But a lot of people have said, like, you should really listen to it. It's a lot to talk about. And I'm like, I might sound crazy. And even with me doing my podcast for as much as, or as long as I've done them, I don't want to sit and hear like a 2-hour podcast or 2.5-hour podcast, only because I'm going to want to fully listen to it. I'm not the best when it comes to that multitasking flow of listening and doing other things and being off course, because certain things will stand out. And then I'm like, hold up, they said what? Let me listen to that. If it works for you, it works for you. It just personally doesn't work for me. And I'm just not in that position to do it. I've shared this numerous times where social media has a tendency to kind of give you like little dopamine shots in its form. And sometimes that can be very helpful, but it also can be very overwhelming. So it's more about the awareness and just utilizing the aftermath of what you can gain from the utilization of it, if you will. So that's my whole spiel. I know I went into a massive tangent about that, but Brick has become my go-to, and I definitely have grown to love it by far. Planners. Let's talk on planners real quick. It was something I was going to return back to talking. Oh, discipline. When you find yourself being disciplined to do things, it makes a big impact on your structure and your workflow. And in its immediate moment, it doesn't make sense. But as time progresses, it's like, oh, so this is why I needed to do this. So this is why this needs to be done this way to get this done. Because it's almost like it literally becomes the age-old analogy of like one hand feeding the other. And I've been very open with myself and realizing that I've lacked a lot of discipline with certain things. There are certain things that I'm disciplined with doing regardless. Like when it comes to my time, when it comes to me doing something, if I know that it's needing to be done within a time frame, I want it done, and I need it done correctly and not with a whole lot of chaos and fluff and bluff. That's just my personal thing that I've kind of like grown to be accustomed to. Now, of course, everyone's different, and I'm obviously not expecting everyone to be me because, as expected, I'm one of one. But that being said, you can run into those pitfalls where you're trying to do what you know you need to do, and you can get off course, and you just need to get that thing to get you back going. I've ran into that a little bit as the year ended, but I've also kind of stumbled with that a little bit to start the year. I'm taking my accountability for that. And most importantly, I'm looking to improve on that as the year progresses. Granted, we're only 6 days in. So as someone, again, reminded me of this before, stop being so hard on myself. And I will be open in saying that that's a constant work in progress. Spinning back to the planners, and as y'all, like I told y'all, this will all be from the thought bubble. So it's gonna come out as I'm thinking about things. 6 days in, I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna probably hurt some people's feelings. If you do not have your planner today, or do not have your planner when you hear this podcast, it's not the end of the world. Let me repeat that again. If you do not have your planner and you're listening to this podcast, it is not the end of the world. A lot of times we get so caught up in this moment of feeling as though, oh man, it's this day. I need to get my planner. If I don't have a planner, I'm not going to be able to get the work done that I need to get done. Here's the reality behind that. If you are working on trying to stay organized, you have to find what's going to work to your advantage. A friend of mine, I'm hoping to have her on the show soon. I've talked about her plenty of times on this podcast. She's a huge advocate when it comes to not making the process more than what it needs to be. Because at times we will find ourselves making stress where it's deemed unnecessary with planning. And sometimes you just need it to be simple. The simplest form of planning, and she said this and I will stand behind her 100% on it, is pen and paper. Not some drawn out, detailed, over the top planner that has all of this breakdown and delusional madness in it. It's a pen and a piece of paper. It could be a note, and even if you want to upgrade it and you want to get a notebook, that's fine too. Less can be more. And from the minimalist aspect, and as y'all know, I always am an advocate of it, and I have not been doing my best with writing some of my stuff down the last few days, but we're going to get back to it soon. I am the bullet journal, I won't say the bullet journal aficionado, but I will say that I am someone who literally lives and breathes bullet journaling. I think bullet journaling has been my best source of planning for the last 4 or 5 years. I got introduced to it in 2019, the end of 2018. I remember I still have the book, buying the book, learning about it, kind of getting a foundational breakdown. They got into the nitty gritty of it where it would get a little bit more technical, a little bit more fun. And I'll be the first to admit, I think the fun style works if you're wanting to really ramp it up. But if you're just wanting the basic, today is January the 6th, I'm going to do these things, and as you complete them, putting an X that it's done, putting a migration of, hey, I'm going to do it tomorrow, or hey, it got done, it'll be done in the future. Then do those things for your benefit. But do not get so caught up in feeling like you have to do it in this massive, immense way. Passion planner, happy planner, day at a glance, if you know, you know. Even this a new company that's been pushing this brand called Big Ass Calendar, where it's like 40 something bucks you put on the wall. All of those things are great, but find what works to your style and to your flow. Do not feel as though because someone else is planning a certain way that you have to plan that way. That is just that's not how it works. That's by far not how it works. And we need to be, as hard as it is not to, we need to meet people where they are in their planning styles. And, ask them what is working with your planning style, and with the planning style you have, what are you working on? Because the simplest way to look at it is the most challenging part for a lot of people. And what I mean by that is something as small as putting it on paper could be what you need to get to that next level. And in some instances, we can get so wrapped up or caught up in the extracurriculars that we're losing focus on what we need to do and how we need to do it. And that's something that I'm still working on, even with my planning format, because like I mentioned, I'm doing the physical planner with the bullet journal. I am Still, I haven't started it yet, but I still have the Rocketbook, looking to use that for a planner. And I have the digital form of the Focus Planner for the Art of Focus with Dan Coe, as well as it's a digital planner that I purchased from Amethyst Garnett. If you have not heard of her content, she does a lot of digital planners. On her most known one is on Etsy. I think it became like a big talk on CNN. I used it a few years ago and it definitely worked. What I like the most about it is she gives you options on how to find a planner that works for you. Now, it can be used on any program platform that allows you to edit and modify and have clickable links for your planner. So if you're using a note application through Android, it will work there. The one that I'm using more frequently with my phone and primarily with my iPad is GoodNotes. Love GoodNotes. I didn't realize how useful GoodNotes would be until really using it. But just find your way. Like, I know I'm in a roundabout conversation with this, but find what way works for you with your planning style and your planning format, and don't feel bad if you're not. And this is something that I think is so golden and so key when it comes to planning. And this is going to hurt a lot of feelings, what I'm about to say. If you miss a couple days, go back and if you want to get anything logged for your benefit of those days, by all means, write it down. But if it's not going to be detrimental to your day-to-day process, move forward. Today is a new day. Today is a new opportunity. You don't need to sit with, oh, I wish I would have wrote this down. I wish I would have shared that. I should have put this down. If you're spending more time looking at what you didn't do, you're not going to be able to work on what you did do. And I'm just going to leave that there with you all. So that's kind of my planning tangent, or if you haven't gotten a planner, or you're looking at planners, or you're window shopping, find your style of planner. Find what could work to your advantage. And most importantly, we have 2 universities now. So we have TikTok University and we have YouTube University. Between one of those 2, you're going to have people that will provide various planner options that can work to your liking. They may have digital planners that can be printable, and that can work as an option as well. But find what's going to work in your environment and in your workflow. Don't sit and feel like you have to do what everybody else is doing. Like I said, I've done bullet journaling for years. I don't push bullet journaling on people because for some people, they look at it as it's a blank page. What do I write? Whatever you want. Some people use it very detailed, very explicit. You have some that will do tracking different things. Like, I've even gone as far as telling people, if you're learning how to do bullet journaling, learn the basics of bullet journaling, but avoid Pinterest. And I tell people that because if you go on Pinterest and search bullet journaling, it will overwhelm you and cause you to not want to do it. And I've said that. And then when people do it, they're like, oh, I see what you meant. I shouldn't have. And I was like, hey, I get it. It's an option. It's an option. It's a resource. So go for it. Speaking of which, I need to mark this. I need to work on my 2024 board on Pinterest. So that will be some work for me to do today as well. I normally don't do pop culture. Y'all know this. If you've listened to my show enough times, you know I don't like to talk about pop culture. But this is a bit of a pop culture / business / marketing / product manager tip trick of the trade that a lot of people didn't even know they were part of, but ta-da, here we are. So 3 days ago, on January 3rd, Stanley brought out their, and I think it was the 3rd, I might be freestyling a little bit. They released, let me backtrack. Stanley mugs have become the latest craze on between social media and just branding as a whole. They were known about, but they weren't known about, and now all of a sudden everyone kind of almost like can't live without the Stanley mugs. It's a 40-ounce container, very well insulated, can hold a good amount of drinks cool for quite some time. If If you place ice in it, it will last. The big story that kind of made them go viral, I want to say last year, was someone's car had caught fire. Anything can happen. But inside the vehicle was a Stanley mug. And the mug literally looked like it barely had been affected by the fire. You know, the straw was bent, obviously, but the mug itself held up just fine. And even when the person went inside the vehicle to look, like they got pictures of it, they also like checked inside, and the mug still, the ice was still, I guess, there was still some ice remaining, which tells a lot, especially from a car catching fire like that. It became such a big story that the owner of Stanley was able to not only gift them a couple mugs for that experience, but also was able to gift them a car. And they said, hey, this is a one-time thing. Don't look for us to do this as a trend. Well, the mugs have really skyrocketed and getting a lot of attention online. A lot of people have been ordering multiple colors, multiple variants of it. Team dupe this way. I think I have what I call a fake Stanley, and I have one that's by, I want to say Ozark. I forget the name of the brand, but it's a brand from Walmart, and I've used the mug for a couple years, well, a couple months rather. And the time of me using it, I thought it's a good mug. It works. It does the job. I'm not really a bells and whistles person when it comes to a mug. I just needed to be able to hold water and stay cool for a good amount of time. Recently, I just got a Gatorade mug, where it's like a jug, and I use that jug predominantly for the gym, but also I've put ice in it, and it's probably like one of my larger mugs. I have that one in my Under Armour mug, which I think both of those, I can put a nice bit of ice in it, put some water in it, call it a day, and everything's great. But back to the Stanley tidbit. So again, these mugs are expensive. They're $45 a piece. Some people have been able to find deals, find promos, all of that stuff. Stanley did a deal or business run with Target and with Starbucks. A lot of people are like, oh, we're boycotting Starbucks based on their beliefs with Israel, and all that's been going on with Palestine. And it kind of put it in a position of Stanley supporting and Target supporting, which, you know, believe what you believe, ride the wave where you want to ride the wave. But the mugs they had two colors. There was a red one and there was a pink one that had Starbucks branding on the side. It had the logo, stuff like that. So Target released it. It was in stores. They had the shelf. I guess people were literally like waiting in line to get these, and they would go in, get the mug, and it was like they had one small stand to pick them up. And I was like, this is Black Friday all over again. Which, by the way, I tell people I don't shop on Black Friday due to a couple of multiple experiences with Black Friday that I'm just not a fan of, and we'll leave it at that. But I say all of that to say, mind you, remember I said earlier the mugs are $45. If I go online right now, I guarantee you they've probably skyrocketed to a more astronomical price because supply and demand. What Stanley did, and I've shared this with people before, is companies will do a very unique marketing ploy to get companies on board with their product. Stanley did one thing, and to some it may not seem like a lot, and this is not even in a sexist or this is not in a men versus women thing. This is just a business move, to say the least. Stanley brought out two colored mugs, and they've made more colors since then, obviously, but two colors that stood out. They brought out an all white mug and they brought out a pink mug to get women. And get women they did. They sold, the mugs sell and move frequently and often. There's like even people who are doing videos where folks already have one of the mugs and they ordered multiple mugs, either of different colors or the same color of one they already have. Marketing strategy complete. But this isn't the first time this has happened with any brand or any business. Brands transition according to what works or what moves the needle. Bad example, but it will make sense when I explain. When Jordan brings out a new shoe, people know when this shoe would release. So what do? Wait in line, go to different shoe stores to get a certain size to either to purchase or whatever the case may be. Once you've gotten the shoe, you're good. You add it to your collection. Some people wear them, some people don't. But now what are we doing? What do we do? Hey, you got to wait in line, a virtual line, to order this certain shoe. And then you find out whether you were a winner of the shoe or whether you weren't able to get the shoe or whatever the case may be. And it pushes people to that limit of getting the product to move where it needs to move. Same with bullet journaling, like I just mentioned earlier. Bullet journaling was a simple minimalist design, which still can be done for most people, but there are a lot of people who do very detailed, very artsy bullet journal designs. And it's nothing wrong with those styles being done, but a lot of times it can overwhelm the main consumer, but they were able to get more people to order and to get on board with bullet journaling at a higher level because of making a transition to the brand. And one other thing, because I didn't talk about this either, if you were to go on StockX.com right now and look for that specific mug, those mugs have now been bumped up in price because of the demand for them, because a lot of people purchase them to resell. Some people are going to purchase them and never use them. They just have it just to say they got it. And everyone's like tripping about this, like, oh my God, I don't understand the purpose. Why would I buy something that and it's not that much of a price, a big thing? Gaming did the same thing to us, and no one paid any attention to it. The Xbox One, the Xbox 360, the original Xbox, the PlayStation 3, 4, the PlayStation 5. When the new PlayStations come out, when the new Xboxes come out, it's the same thing. The demand is going to be high when the item first releases. So people who are able to get a hand on them are going to buy them just to sell them at a very high price. There was a individual who passed away a couple weeks ago. He had a book out. A lot of people realized that the book was definitely making some moves. So folks were selling the book at like 50, 60, 70, 80 bucks on eBay because people know how to move the needle when it comes to the product. So I'm just saying all that to tie back to Stanley, that if you're really in need, and I'm going to say this to you because I can, and I'm giving y'all know I always like to give y'all the real. If you don't use TikTok, that's fine. But if you do, TikTok Shop, a couple of sellers are selling the mug, and they're selling it at an affordable price outside of that range. Now, if this gets me canceled, hey, it is what it is. It was a good show. It was a good run. But that's number one. Number two, and the added piece to it is, if you're really needing to get a mug, just wanting the mug in general, go to Dick's Sporting Goods. Dick's Sporting Goods has had them in stock for months. Certain colors, you're gonna, if you look them up, they'll have it where they let you know what day it's gonna be in stock. And worse come to worse, you can always go to the direct seller themselves and buy it. But I'm telling you now, please do not go on Amazon and spend 80 something bucks for a mug. It's not worth it. Like, just get. And again, if you don't have to have the name, go to Walmart. Go to Walmart and get a Target. Just get a simple mug. Because it's more important to get your 40 ounces. Because if you can drink 2 or 3 of those, you covered with water for the day. There, I said it. So I just wanted to talk about that as a kind of a random sidebar. Really don't have much else I want to talk about. I really want people to know this is just one of those, like, hey, I wanted to, not even like a filler show, but it was a, hey, I'm back. I want y'all to know everything's good. I've gotten a good amount of feedback from the year in review, thanks to anyone who did take time to listen. My bad, I didn't have a guest on. A lot of things came up, but it's nothing. The show must go on, right? So, like, I can't sit there and like stop to not do what I'm intended to do and not give y'all give y'all wholesome content. That's really my main priority. My biggest expectation, my biggest push this year is to really hone in, zone in, lock in on the Udemy courses that I've acquired to not only make my business move better, but to just make me more confident in creation of content. Because on my laptop, I literally keep Adobe Illustrator up at all times. So I live and breathe Illustrator, but I do, I love the other group, the other applications, the InDesign, the InCopy. I haven't used it much, but Adobe Animate is pretty dope. I'm going to find a way, because I still have it. I'm going to find a way to figure out an option on how to use Adobe Dreamweaver more frequently with designing web pages. Now, before anybody gives me any flack, yes, I know it's an old application. Yes, I know no one really uses it anymore. But even more interesting, and I wish I could get it back, because I don't think my last computer, I don't think I can get it on there anymore. I want to find a way to get Adobe Muse back. For those of you who don't know, Adobe Muse, in so many words, Adobe Muse was like a enhancement of the program Macromedia Contribute, or Adobe Contribute. I think it was Macromedia, where you pretty much could go in and plug and play however you wanted to design a website. Dreamweaver had a little bit more flexibility to it. I've not used it in its newer forms, but it seems as though it's the same format, the same style, where you can add in pages and mess around with it and work on it in that regard. So it's this year is literally the year of creation and just managing and maintaining content. And like I mentioned earlier, this is, National Technology Day. So I'm really focusing in on the physical yet the digital delivery of things and making it all make sense. So I really want people to truly figure it out, but not stress it if they don't figure it out all the way. At times, the process can be a little harder for us than we think, but the reality is it's not as complicated as we think it is. That's the best way I can put it. I got a message. And I'm sitting here like I said, this is an improv show, so my apologies. Again, I usually come in structured, ready, got my work, my work flowy ready to go, got all my stuff already written out, but this time it's kind of just on a chill vibe. But I got a message I'm gonna pass along to y'all. And it's a good message to pass along for National Technology Day. Many of us carry smartphones. We use them to what we need to use them for, but we don't give them the balance and the attention they deserve in our day-to-day. So I'm going to layer this down. I'm going to do the trifecta. We're going to talk about the phone, we're going to talk about the tablet, and we're going to talk about the desktop, whether you use a Mac or a Windows computer. I don't care. We're not having this. This is not on a debatable basis with these devices. And let me backtrack and make sure I say this. This is for the smartphone, the tablet, and the desktop/laptop. I don't want to put bubbles and buckets between things, because I think that can make it real murky and it turns into like a beef that's not a beef. And I've talked about that. I feel like I've brought that up at least once every 50 episodes on the podcast. Someone who knows me or someone who's listened to the show might be able to confirm that better than me. But let's break it down. Smartphone. Manage your applications properly as to what you're looking for while using your smartphone. I'm not against you being on social media. I'm not against you learning what you need to learn from various applications. But get what you need and go. Because there are certain apps that we have that we don't give a lot of attention to. Like I recommended an application, which I believe is both Android and iOS based, called Coolors. And basically what Coolors is it's a resource to give you a color palette. And most people don't use it because they don't realize how powerful of an application it is. It is and yes, it is an iOS and an Android application. You can access this through the web, so you can access it through desktop or laptop as well. But it will help you in getting like a color palette together when trying to like work on your color schemes for your designing. And it can be designing on the level of offering to talk to someone about doing a logo for your business, but you can also use it just for general color schemes of things that you may share online. Because you want to see how colors look when they're near other colors. Like if you want to look at a light blue, dark red, light red, maroon, auburn. There's so many different color variants that are out there that trying to find like the perfect color. We're not going to get into the hex conversation because that'll be a whole separate podcast. But just knowing and managing the color schemes as a whole will make things make more sense over time. So I'm sharing it on that level, but I also want to share it just utilizing the resources. With the tablet. Tablets are solid. You can watch videos on them all day. But make sure if you're getting something useful out of it, it's not just being batteried down. And I don't want to say battered because that's just not going to work. You don't want to just burn the battery down and drain the battery out from doing mundane tasks. As an advocate, I'm guilty of saying this. I use mine a lot for doing different adult coloring. But there's way more that I can do with my tablet by using an application like Procreate. And with our desktops, need I say more? Access what you need to access, but set those timers and set those systems. Habits, goals, systems, tracking, inventory, all need to be kept at an eye still. At eye level. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to probably make some people mad as I'm getting super relaxed. So let me sit up when I say this because it's going to make more sense when I say what I'm about to say. Unless there's something that has you where you have to use more than one of these devices at the same time, focus on one. Give the other two or the other one, if you're using it, a rest. Case in point. And my friend brought this to my attention. This is probably why I'm so lashed in on this. A lot of times we spend our energy and effort on our phone. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing ever going to be wrong with that. But if you want to find a secret or a hack, as it's always said on TikTok, a way to not use your phone as often, use your tablet. If your tablet can access those same programs or applications, use the tablet, but also be aware and be intentional with that usage, because you don't need to be as quote unquote attached to it as you think you do. But if you put yourself in a position to be such, then you've made the space be what the space is. And I'll leave it at that, because our devices in some way, shape, or form have a very high price tag. Even if we have the lowest of the low devices, they still have a pretty high price tag. And if you really think about the price that went into the item that you have versus the uses that you're getting out of said item, they don't match up. And I'm really gut punching myself with this one, because I really think about, even when I was talking about it earlier, where I was like, yeah, I went and got my iPad and this happened and that happened. And I'm like, so let me get it straight. You bought an iPad, you put these applications on it. You need to go through and sift to see what applications you're really using, because a lot of them you don't need. They're taking up space, they're running memory, they're affecting your battery life, your battery health, but you're just holding them. Like, hoarding applications on your devices are the worst. It's the worst thing ever. And again, I'm not saying this to like throw anybody under the bus, throw shade, point fingers, none of that. I'm just bringing it up to make people more aware of what they are and or aren't doing. I'm surprised I did this show with no water. Because normally I'm always sitting here like I'm always talking about it on the podcast, like drink water, drink water, drink water. And I talked about Stanley joking with the water thing, but realistically, I did a whole show with no water. Not that I needed to share that with y'all, but most of y'all that's heard my show know I'm never gonna like hold a punch on what I talk about. But yeah, shocked that I was able to do that. I'm glad I was able to do it, but gonna remember that next time. But hey, things happen. But yeah, out of everything I said, I want to say this and then I'll close. The message I want to pass to you is with the devices you have, use the devices as necessary. But most importantly, if you got a bunch of apps that you're not using, let them go. It is no point in holding, and I'm about to really make myself mad because I got a hunch that I am probably the example of this. Let us see. General. Probably not the place I need to go. General about. Wow. I did not need to look at that. Oh my gosh. So, this just yelled at me. Now, and it wasn't my screen time. I'll go ahead and get it out of the way now. There is no reason. We started the new year off right. There's no reason I should have 540 applications on my phone. It's just not. There's no reason for that. And I think what makes it worse isn't the amount of applications. It's realizing that out of all of these applications, I don't use half of them that exist. Because I'm looking at the amount of applications, the amount of photos. Like I have a lot of photos, like people always say this, but it's a realistic thing. We save so many screenshots that we're never going to go back and look at. We save a lot of screenshots. We take a lot of photos. Like my photos from Afrotech are good to have because they're always like reminiscent and things I can go back and like joke and talk about. But some of the screenshots, they can go. They can really go. Like I would not be surprised. I'll check this and then I'm going to let y'all go because I know y'all are like, look, we get it. You got a problem. But I have, this has been a great show. Oh my gosh. I have close to 6,000 screenshots. Why? Why so many? And I know a bunch of them are just like it was 11:11. Oh, it was 1:51. Oh, it was 1:11. Oh, it was 12:12. Oh, I found this good quote that was a repost. That was something someone said, and I already got the message, but I didn't put it anywhere. We get all this information, but we're doing nothing with the inventory. Close to 6,000 screenshots is insane. So yeah, manage and keep track of your inventory. And that's not just on the digital level, that's on the physical level too. It's always good when you have a message to pass along, but then you're passing a message to yourself at the same time. Like, wow, that hurt, but I needed to hear it. So, ta-da. But all right, y'all, I'm gonna roll with that, man. That's what I got for y'all today. The shows will have a better flow to them, I promise. Again, thanks for being patient. Thanks for being supportive. I rock with y'all. Like, y'all don't understand how much I appreciate anyone taking time to listen to my rambling and all over the place madness, but somehow it all comes together. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoy. Again, we are a few episodes away from 400. Have not thought of what I'm going to do yet, but I'll be working on that. And again, if you'll probably hear it in the outro, but I'm going to say it now. If you've made it this far, please leave a review or feedback on the podcast. If you're listening to it on a platform that allows that, if it does not, that's fine. But please let me know. I want to find ways to make this better for you all as listeners. I'd love to sit here and talk and share information that I've learned and gained, but it's more than just me. It takes the listeners to provide the feedback on how to make the show amazing. So that's what I got. I'm going to wrap it up here. And until next time, this is The Past signing out. Peace. Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.